Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. Over coffee this morning, I was thinking about Seinfeld for some reason, and I think it was in large part because I was thinking about the show and what I was going to record, and the fact that I don't have anything lined up and don't have any notes today. And I kind of feel like not really feeling on my A game, and I figured, well, I'll just record something. And I guess that was the thing that made me think about Seinfeld, because I remember reading or hearing somewhere that that's what Seinfeld was. It was a show about nothing. And if you look up in your search engine of choice, Jerry Seinfeld, a show about nothing, you'll see a bunch of responses. And one from Reddit says that Jerry Seinfeld's stand-up material is based on observing everyday minutia and giving it so much attention and thought that it becomes funny. And this is certainly not a show about comedy, but it's a show about life. And in a way, my life. It's here we are. It's season 5, episode 15 of a show about nothing. The very first episode of this show goes back years. I mean, I think I released the very first episode in September of 2020. And it was at a time where there was a lot of uncertainty in the world. Those COVID years, or the COVID year. And we were 6 months into the big thing, and a lot of people were not really sure what to do or how to handle it. And I figured, well, I'm going to start a podcast. Because at that time, 4 years ago, I had already in my mind made the decision that I was not going to live a conventional, big air quotes, conventional life, that I was going to live differently. Okay, whatever that means to you, that's kind of what I was thinking. And a lot of this was motivated by things that I had been exposed to over the 10 years prior to that. And in large part was driven and motivated by another podcast called the Survival Podcast. And I will link to that in the show notes today. And if you are not familiar with that, I would encourage you to become familiar with that, because what Jack does in the show is he's an excellent podcaster, and he, a lot of people, I think, who aren't familiar with him or his work just lump him into the umbrella category of prepper. And I guess I understand that. Depends on what episode that you listen to. He's got over 3,000 episodes. He's hosted numerous workshops at his homestead. And he's given a bunch of speeches and lectures at different events across the United States. And based on what you hear, you could lump him into any kind of category you really want to. But the reality is he's had a diverse base of content, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that, for me, has been helpful over the past, at this point, 14 years. Because that has helped me determine what it is that I want to do, right? And I there's a lot of people out there who seem to be on a track that where they consistently they wake up, they do their work, whatever that looks like to them. They've got structure and routine, and they know what they're doing. Again, big air quotes, they know what they're doing. And when I first heard this show, I was living in when I first heard Jack's show, I was living in Southern California. And this show here, the All Around Growth podcast, is actually my third iteration of attempts at podcasting. I was recording shows in hotel rooms during my travels in 2013, and then I recorded episodes in 2015 after the formation of my business, and then did a bunch of business stuff, again big air quotes, over the next couple of years, only to find myself deeply in debt and burned out emotionally and in a number of other ways because I lacked focus. I didn't have much of I didn't know where I was going. So this podcast, this show about nothing, was its sole objective, despite what you hear throughout the episodes and the introduction and how it's changed, a show about all the facets of your life and finding balance and finding your passion and all of that. It's basically a show that is documenting, well, nothing really. It's documenting, my life and my journey for those who are interested. And why I think that is of interest to someone, I don't know, because we live in an age of content creation, right? And really it's more of an age of content consumption. So many of us, myself included, are consumers rather than creators, and this was my attempt at creating rather than strictly consuming. And it began as a daily endeavor, and over time it went from daily to weekly to monthly to so on and so forth. And it's changed from episode just one after the other, 500, to seasons. And now this is the fifth year of the show, 2020 being 1, 2021 being 2, 2022 being 3, 2023 being 4, and 2024 being the fifth year of the show. So we're effectively in season 5. And it's August, and we're in season 14, or episode 15 rather. I took a long break this year from doing any shows, from March 19th until August 6th. So that was March, April, May, June, July, August, almost a 5-month break. And you'll notice that a lot of my shows this year have been based on my faith and based on the church, and touching a little bit on the Patreon group. And we had the first call, our first video call for Patreon supporters and subscribers was last night, and it was very casual. It was nice. It was a nice casual call, just a nice casual discussion with friends. And sometimes when I wonder about why I do what I do with regard to this show, conversations like last night remind me of why I do what I do. Because I get to share life with you guys. I get to cultivate relationships with you guys and learn and grow, and I appreciate that. Many of you guys I've not even met in real life, but we've talked on the phone, we've talked through video calls online, and these calls, these video calls are in a way kind of a primer for me to experiment with and prepare for interviews so that we can continue growing the show. And who knows? I mean, maybe this is not where it's at. And what I mean by that is maybe it's the all-around growth is not where, maybe it's not. Maybe this iteration of podcasting, like, is not its final form. There's a lot going on. Like, I've got my business. There's the new natural fermented food business, which is a registered trade name of my business, which is not in any way, shape, or form directly attached to it is affiliated with York Meadow Farm, but they're two separate companies for insurance purposes, and largely I took over something that Dad had started, and I'm not very clear as to why things are structured the way that they are. It's kind of complicated, and I think that there are ways that things could be streamlined in life and in business, and in part as that continues to happen, those will be things that are discussed here on the show, and it maybe at some point in time there will be a York Meadow Farm podcast, or like I've talked about with Mom, maybe the actual website for the show will be part of the York Meadow Farm website, and all the episodes that are directly related to homesteading will be available, but episodes that are not related to homesteading, like the last episode, Unlocking the Power of Bible Study with the Bible.com app, the episode before that, Lessons from the Storm, Preparedness and Community Support, the episode before that, just on, listener reflections, Metamorphosis, the episode before that, Embracing Forgiveness and Transformation, the episode before, there's a lot of episodes that aren't directly related to homesteading, and I mean, that's okay. It's also a little weird to me because I don't feel like I'm homesteading the way that, like, the life that I'm currently living is not what I envisioned when I thought about homesteading, right? And I don't think I'm going to feel like a homesteader until there's livestock here and I'm doing more, quote, homesteady things. I don't know what the future has in store, but as we continue to put together a plan, which involves talking with land designers, permaculture designers, regenerative agriculture designers, homestead designers, whatever you want to call it, we're talking with four. So far, four, and I need to follow up with a couple people today to schedule calls to actually keep this moving, because I started and stopped, and there's just been a lot of change in life over the past couple of years, especially a lot of change in life over the past couple of months, and I think that it's important to just have something consistent in my life, which recently, since the year of the COVID, is this, and so we'll see what happens. Even if there's a new podcast, access to these shows will always be there, and I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's necessary, because quite frankly, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I'm having a good time doing it, and even on days like today where I don't really feel on my A game, and days like today where I'm a little slow to get going because I didn't sleep that well. What do you do? You get up and you go, and that's what you do sometimes. And today is one of those days. So, here's to a show. Here's to a show about nothing. I again, I hope that you enjoy this show about nothing. Definitely not much going on with specificity about today's show, today's topic, but you get what you get. Many thanks to those of you who made the Patreon call last night, specifically Sean and Kiriki. It was great to talk with you guys. The other Patreon supporters, Rachel, Brian, we missed you guys, but we understand that there's life going on, that there's a lot of life going on in all of our lives. So we'll keep these things a regular occurrence, and I look forward to them. We're gonna experiment with days, we're going to experiment with times, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see where it takes us. Hopefully over time we'll even have a few more subscribers. I'm back to experimenting with StreamYard. That's how we had the call last night, so maybe we'll get back to a point where we're streaming the show, which will help with reaching a broader audience, and we'll see if that is helpful in growing the audience base for those people who are interested in a show about nothing. So with that, guys, thanks for listening today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of the week ahead. This is Rob Kaiser. Thank you, and God bless.